Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. Raid's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collaboration is over, but in this video I'm going to take one final look at the full team. What does it mean for especially an early game account where you can't just dress them up in Merciless or something, because you just don't have that sort of sets, and you probably don't even have them fully booked yet, and you don't have them fully sold, but they are still an account changing force, and I'm going to show you how I've built them in early game accounts and what they can accomplish. First, thank you Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video and for giving me this wonderful promo link down below in the description there in the QR code. New account with Deacon Armstrong after the tutorial, Uugo at 15, Tagoar at 20, Mausoleum Mage at 30, a wonderful start to Raid. But the power of turtles. So for an early game account, you don't have gear sets necessary. You're working with stats, not sets. You don't have set bonuses yet. You don't have big souls. You don't necessarily have full books. And turtles can still deliver stuff like 1 key Ultra Nightmare Demon Lord, or at least 2 key. 2 key is pretty easy to get with turtles, even when they're not booked yet. And 1 key probably requires some books already. Iron Twin Stage 15 is available with turtles. Every gear dungeon, normal stage 20. Every potion keep, stage 20, so the last stage of potion keeps. Chimera Clash, enough points to get the chest. Hydra Clash, enough points to get the chest. Doom Tower, normal Doom Tower is yours. PvP, turtles can be used in PvP. They are a decent PvP team. Nothing too special, but if needed, they can also be your PvP team. So turtles can do all of this. But how do you build the team? The turtles bring a lot of desirable traits. Leo brings increased defense and ally protection. Mikey brings a lot of stuff because Mikey brings decreased defense, stun, decreased attack, and leech. So that's a great set of debuffs. Donnie brings heals. Donnie brings increased speed and strengthen buff as well. And then Raphael brings the least. And there's block revive, but generally Raphael is the most expendable one. Although of course having Raphael also there means that Leo has the full turtle set to go with him, so that's great. But Leo, Mikey, Donnie, those three can also do a lot even without Raph. They're still missing a bunch of stuff though. Weaken, notably, they don't have Weaken. So if you can bring Weaken with another champion, that's great. They don't have speed aura, so they have speed buffs, but they don't have speed aura. So if you really want to make them go fast, then someone like Deacon obviously can do a bunch of stuff. They don't have block buffs or block debuffs, so those might be important in some context. And then block active skills, heal reduction, freeze, HP burn, provoke. So there's still a bunch of stuff that you might want to add to this team. And you might also want to add more consistency, especially if you haven't them fully booked, because like Mikey's debuffs, for example, they all book to 100%, but they start at 75. So if you don't have books on Mikey, then sometimes he's going to miss that decrease attack against the clan boss, for example, and then your team might die a little bit faster. So turtles bring damage. They bring a good number of buffs and debuffs. They work really, really well together. And then in content where you have more slots than 4, you try to fill in the gaps with some other champions that can bring some of that stuff that's missing from the turtles, depending on what of that is needed for that specific content. And when you're upgrading the skills of your turtles, they have some great abilities to book. The most important ones are, well, Donatello reduces the cooldowns of others and also saves them from dying, and then just heals them and stuff. So Donatello A2, then passive and A3. Mikey, the debuff abilities, A3 and A2, so that those would go to 100%. And Leo just smacking everything down even more often with A3 and A2. So this is generally the order that I would book the turtles, starting with Donnie, then with Mikey, then with Leo. You could also alternate a little bit between Donnie's and Mikey's abilities, so you get the cooldown reduction first for Donnie, and then you might do something on Mikey as well, but generally that's the order, and Raph is the least important one to book. Then we go into Masteries and we go into Blessings. Obviously gear is also something, but I mean gear is fairly straightforward. If you're not at the point where you can put on some sets anyway, I mean like Relentless is a great set on these obviously, and something like dressing Leo in Merciless, that's wonderful. But assuming you're not there yet, then you're just trying to get the best stats you can so that they have the stats for their main ability and as much speed as possible, just the usual stuff. But for the Masteries, for Donnie, War Master for more damage, and then counterattacks from the defense tree for more heals. I really like that because Donnie heals with his A1, and counterattacks always use the A1. Counterattacks do not proc the ally attacks, so all turtles will not attack when one turtle is counterattacking. But just getting more of those attacks means more heals, and that just keeps your team alive. Donnie is a good champion for cruelty, so that you can get some of that decreased defense going. But if you really need to get Brimstone into the team, then Donnie is also an option to bring Brimstone. Then there is Mikey, and for Mikey I also use War Master for more damage. Obviously you can also go Helm Smasher later on. Helm Smasher really depends the most on what sort of content you're doing. Are you doing the higher stages of Hydra, higher stages of Chimera, hard Doom Tower, hard Cursed City, where opponents have a lot of defense? Because Helm Smasher is going to reduce your damage if you're going against something like a Demon Lord. Even Ultra Nightmare Demon Lord, Helm Smasher is going to deal less damage than War Master. But so it depends. Once that content is trivial, like UNM Demon Lord is trivial to you, then you're going into Helm Smasher later on. But obviously this is about early game account, so War Master it is. And then in the support tree, Master Hexer, so that the debuffs would last a little bit longer. That would be great. And as for Blessings, Nature's Wrath is wonderful with Mikey, because Mikey applies a lot of debuffs. Nature's Wrath increases your damage when you apply debuffs. Wonderful. Brimstone also works really well with Mikey, so Brimstone is another option. Depending on content, either Leo or Mikey is going to be your top damage dealer, and Leo can really dish out some crazy damage. So again, Leo, War Master, absolutely War Master on an early game account, and again Helm Smasher if you're into that real later game content, you're fighting against enemies with lots of defense, and then that becomes better. And then for Leo, there's actually two options, and I haven't really decided which one is better. So you can go defense tree, like this is my Leo currently is in defense tree for those counterattacks and more survivability, and I think I like that one the best. But there's also support tree and going down to lasting gifts so that Leo's buffs would last longer. That's another alternative. You could also consider doing that. But it's pretty close. Leo is great with Heavencast. Leo has a lot of buffs. Heavencast adds your damage when you have buffs, so more damage. And if you happen to have a 6-star soul, then Crushing Rend just deals so much damage. But if you don't have a 6-star soul, then you don't really want Crushing Rend anyway. And finally we have Raph, and again War Master, War Master, War Master, War Master. That's just the way it goes. And then the defense tree for more survivability and those counter attacks. For Raph especially, more survivability is really, really useful. Raph is the most fragile one of these, and support tree also doesn't offer anything for Raph, so counter attacks it is. Heavencast again works with Raph. Crushing Rend, if you have a 6-star soul, works with Raph. You could consider using Raph for Brimstone as well. That's not impossible. So that's sort of options for this one. And if we look in the specific encounters, then this is a screenshot actually from yesterday from my own clan. So Turtles versus Demon Lord, this is against Ultra Nightmare Demon Lord. So even when they're only partially booked, easy 2-key. Even when they were already quite partially booked, I was able to sometimes 1-key Ultra Nightmare, sometimes it was a little bit unreliable. Today with the CVC I actually booked Mikey, so I got Mikey to 100%, and it looks like I'm going to have 1-key UNM from now on my account. Weaken, great thing to add. Speed is great thing to add. You could try to add some poison as well. There's a bunch of things. So there's a few different types of teams that people have built with Turtles. Like all of these people have started playing Raid within the last few months and then went for all the Turtles and then got the Turtles, and Turtles are now account defining for them. Also decrease attack, increase speed. More of those if you don't have them at 100%, that really helps. But Demon Lord with Turtles, you're just going to roll over it. Then when it comes to Turtles and Chimera, Turtles might not be able to complete all sorts of trials for Chimera, so then you have a couple of slots that you can fill, well, 1 or 2 slots. But here's actually an example of my own accounts. So another one of these has 2 Donnies, because on one of the accounts I have 2 Donnies. So even going with 5 Turtles is perfectly viable for Chimera and getting that clan chest. Hydra is content that Turtles do not solve as well as they do the Demon Lord and Chimera, because just getting 4 Turtles into Hydra does not mean that you're going to do well at all. They might just die way too quickly. So for Hydra you have those 2 other slots, and those slots you really need some kind of champions that bring the right buffs and debuffs for whatever Hydra combination you're facing. So for example here Glade Wolf and Uugo are really helping out. They're bringing the debuffs and buffs and provokes and stuff that's needed so that you will just have the full collection, and then the turtles can definitely bring the DPS. All you need from the remaining 2 slots is the right combination of buffs and debuffs to keep the Hydra occupied enough so that turtles can just then smack it. But for Hydra, turtles do not work alone because there are gaps in their coverage. Then we come to Iron Twins, and stage 15 is doable with turtles +1 with varying levels of consistency. I wasn't able to get fully consistent level 15 clear with all of my accounts. Here's a couple of ideas that I have played around with, so using some Tagoar here and there, or Tolin a little bit, or Deacon, Rella, that was against a green twins, and one of these was against the blue twins. But anyway, turtles really do give you a really good start, and then you just add a little bit more again, and that will take down the Iron Twins. So that's turtles for an early game account, how to build them, how to combine them with your other champions, and you can really get going through all of the early game with the power of turtles, and then just start building a bigger collection so that you will be able to take on bigger challenges in Curse City and stuff. And yeah, truly an account-changing force. So if you played during the event and you were able to get, well, at least 3 of these, I suppose, then you have really some good times ahead, and then you can start building your account and working on a wider roster for the remaining challenges. Thank you for watching. Click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and a special thanks to all of my Patreon supporters, YouTube members and Twitch subscribers who make all of these videos possible.